What's up, Barnhill family, and welcome back to the channel.
Yo.
So, Nick, Charles Do Bronx Olivera, how about him? First of all, what a great fight that was for as long as it lasted. Very evenly matched for as long as it lasted. Very back and forth. I think Dustin won the first round. Charles clearly won the second round, closed the show in the third. Unfortunately for the Diamond, this is now 2 shots at an undisputed belt. And as he said last night in the post-fight press conference, I've been choked out both times.
Yeah, that's really, really tough for everybody because Dustin Poirier is so likable. Everybody in the sport loves him. All the fighters, all the fans, everybody, and for good reason. But gosh, that fight was exactly what we all thought it was going to be. The money line was pretty tight. People had Dustin coming in as the favorite, and that's mostly because of the strength of schedule that he's run throughout the later part of his career. But I had a feeling this fight was going to end in a finish. I didn't know who was going to get the finish, but I had a feeling they were both going to bring it, which they absolutely did. And then to see it go 50-50, pretty much split in the first 2 rounds, and then the third one kind of be the deciding factor, I was so impressed because it's exactly what we wanted to see, just an even more exciting version of what we had expected.
Yeah, and I think we'll have to check the tape on this one, but I'm pretty sure you picked Charles Olivera by 3rd round submission, didn't you?
I think I did, actually.
Yeah.
I'll have to go back and watch the last episode.
I know. I picked Dustin by 4th round TKO.
Oh yes, I think I did.
You did. I think you did pick Charles by 3rd round submission. So congratulations on an extremely accurate prediction there. I don't know. It could have been 4th. I might be wrong.
I should have bet on it. No, I think we did pick opposite rounds, but I should have bet on that one to a T because I don't even get the fighters right.
Yeah.
I'll pick the loser every time, and then I definitely obviously miss on the round and the way the submission or the finish happens. But yeah, I guess I got lucky.
You're not quite as bad as Chael, but
yeah, exactly.
But yeah, not quite the track record you'd hope for. But hey, this one certainly made up for it.
For sure.
But Charles Do Bronx Olivera, I think, is one of the best jiu-jitsu fighters that we've ever seen inside the UFC. When you think about great Brazilian jiu-jitsu fighters, you think of Damian Maia, obviously, Royce Gracie, who kind of carried the jiu-jitsu flag in the very early days of MMA. You have Jacare Souza, Gilbert Burns, people that have competed, Davi Ramos, who's competed at ADCC, a lot of really good world champion jiu-jitsu fighters, but none of them have as many submission wins as Charles Do Bronx Olivera, and I think that nobody is making jiu-jitsu work inside of the MMA rule set as good as Charles is right now. I mean, that submission last night was a thing of absolute beauty. Dustin had no choice. Charles was on his back, and Dustin had a choke underneath his chin. He would have gone unconscious if he didn't tap there. That was as beautiful a finish as I've seen in quite some time.
Yeah, and it was kind of a throwback. Joe Rogan reminded us that Charles Oliveira's first fight and first win in the UFC was a standing rear naked choke on somebody's back, which is super cool. And the thing about the rear naked choke in MMA is a lot of times when you see it, and we saw it in the fight before this, the co-main event, you see a fighter give everything they've got in the fight, and then when they realize that they've lost all chances of winning, they kind of concede the back, and then they kind of let the finish happen. Dustin Poirier did not let that submission happen. He did not let Charles Olivera get there. He was not conceding anything. Charles Olivera put a submission on a guy, a very basic submission, high level, but basic and fundamental. The first thing people know, bouncers teach each other, the first thing, here's a rear naked choke. That's all you need to know. So everybody knows this move. And the way he was able to do it on Dustin Poirier, who is an incredible grappler, incredible jiu-jitsu player, was so impressive.
Yeah, no, it definitely was. And I think, and it was what really high level anything is, whether it's Muay Thai, Jiu-Jitsu, wrestling, is just a really good sound deployment of the fundamentals.
Yes.
And Charles Olivera did. There was a couple things technically that I want to point out that made that submission work last night. And you see it a lot of times in the octagon because jiu-jitsu is traditionally done in a gi. There's a lot more friction there. No gi is becoming very popular now. But certainly inside of an octagon setting where you're 3 rounds into a war, both men are extremely sweaty. Neither one of them have a shirt on. 9 times out of 10, when you see somebody jumped onto somebody's back, they they slide right off. It's very easy for the person to kind of create an angle with their body so that the person on the back slides off or they can shake them off. Right. Charles did a couple of things that mitigated that. He only put one hook in, and then he was able to frame on Dustin's arm, kind of keeping himself based on Dustin's left arm, I believe it was, and then he locked his legs almost in a guard position. So he didn't go for double hooks, which would be both legs inside, which is the position that you would go to if you were on the ground. Because he was on the back, he had the situational awareness to go with the feet locked together in a guarded position, so he couldn't be shucked off by Dustin until he could get the angle on the choke that he wanted and get the elbow underneath the chin, which is what you need for a true blood choke. You know, we saw in the co-main event, that was more of Amanda kind of conceding. As you said, that was more on the face. Yeah. It wasn't really a blood choke. She wasn't in jeopardy, immediate jeopardy of going unconscious. Right. Dustin absolutely was. Charles had everything in place to where Dustin was going to sleep. He had the good position. We always say position before submission. He established the dominant position. He put in the submission, and he didn't use maximum effort as far as squeezing goes until he knew he had it in. And it was just a thing of beauty. Charles Do Bronx Olivera, a lot of people kind of overlooked him because they think, well, he beat Michael Chandler, a guy who's got a losing record in the UFC, for the belt. But I think it's time to give the man his due. He is the undisputed champion, and he is an excellent fighter.
Yeah, he is. And he's kind of been the underdog his entire career. You know, the sneakiest record that he holds is the most fight bonuses of all time. Well, he tied Donald Cerrone, 18. That's unheard of. The fact that he's got so many finishes, and it just kind of slides under the radar. You know, he's on a list of people like Donald Cerrone, and you would think Donald Cerrone's on that list.
That's the first person you think of when you think of who's got the most fight bonuses.
Right. Anderson Silva, Vitor Belfort. You see these types of names on there. And then you've got the Joe Lozons and the Jim Millers, and they make it because they're just such vets. But Charles Olivera is one of those guys that just slid under the radar, and now he's arrived. 10 fights in a row in the toughest division in all of mixed martial arts and all of martial arts, really. 155 right now is just as competitive as it gets. And he's able to just, you know, obviously go through wars because these fights are difficult. But once he turns it on, and we saw a different Charles Olivera in round 2 and round 3 than we saw in round 1. I don't want to call him a slow starter, but I think he almost lets himself, you know, get close to that getting finished mark, and then he turns it back on when the person almost feels like, okay, well, I hit him with everything I've got, or I really put the pressure on him, and he didn't go out. So now I'm starting to play mental games like, what do I do to actually take this guy out? I feel like he does a really good job at pushing the pace, and as the fight progresses, getting better and pushing down on the gas even harder. So I think Dustin Poirier realized that, and Dustin looked like $1 million in the first round. I was really worried, and we kind of talked about this in the pre-fight preview when we were breaking this thing down. If Olivera goes in there and tries to box with Dustin, he's going to get finished, and that's exactly what it looked like in the first round. Once he started to mix the martial arts, which I think he does better than almost anybody, both on the feet and, of course, on the ground. He put on a clinic last night with the jiu-jitsu, the grappling, the top control, and then, of course, the striking. Some of those elbows were vicious. I think when he mixes it up like that, he puts a really, really good chance at becoming, continuing this undefeated 10 in a row type of streak, and he can beat anybody, including the best in the world, like Dustin Poirier.
Yeah, the boxing range wasn't doing it for him in the first round, and Dustin had an incredible first round. Yeah. Dustin's, I mean, I feel so bad for him. As much as the worst thing about this fight was that one of these two guys had to lose, right? Because I like both of them, but Dustin Poirier was tagging Charles in the first round in boxing range. Yeah. Charles has got great Muay Thai. He's got some really nasty close range elbows, some nice body knees that he implores by breaking the posture.
The push kick and the teep kick.
Exactly. When Charles can keep you at a kickboxing range with the teep kick, the push kick, as you said, leg kicks, and stuff like that, he's really effective. And then when he's close in like a Thai clinch, he's very effective with the short elbows and with the knees. His weak part, not I want to call it a weak part, but the weaker part of his game in the striking department is in a traditional Queensberry boxing range.
Yeah.
He tends to get tagged there, and that's exactly what Dustin was doing. Charles made the beautiful adjustments, and I think Dustin made a fundamental mistake in that second round when I don't want to say he pulled guard, but it kind of almost looked like that.
Yeah.
He conceded guard a little bit, and then he didn't try to explode out of there. And I know how much of a threat as far as submissions on the ground Charles Olivera is, but at some point when you're just holding somebody in your guard and you've got 3+ minutes of ground and pound, and I think Charles must have landed almost a dozen really nasty elbows during that time period. At some point in that round, you need to take a chance and try to just connect your feet to Charles's hips and explode out of it. Because I think come third round, Dustin was beaten so badly in the second that Charles was just kind of a shark circling its prey for the inevitable finish there. So I think that was the second round was kind of when Dustin made a mistake. And he even said as much. He said, my coaches said, let this fight unfold. Let him come to you. Let's keep it in boxing range and let's tag him and slowly accumulate our victory here. And he said, I didn't do that. I tried to brawl a little bit and I paid for it. So, I don't want to kick him while he's down. He came out and said exactly what he did wrong, and I tend to agree with him. And so, and it's not that he had a bad performance. It's just that Charles Olivera is as legit as advertised.
Yeah, and he talked about this in the post-fight press conference. He said the reason he didn't try to get up from the bottom on that second round, once he did establish, the locked-up guard position, he said he knows how dangerous the submission attempts are and the threat that Charles Olivera presents when he is in the transitional parts of grappling and MMA.
Yeah.
And he didn't want to get caught in something like that. But that's a mistake right there. You're going to have to take risks in this game. You've got to go for it. And if you're down there and you're clearly losing a round, you got 3 minutes to sit down there. Don't just wait down there. There's a chance that you might get caught. He might grab a hold of your foot and you have some problems there. But if you don't leave it, you're just going to lose this round soundly.
Yeah.
So it's tough, but you can't just concede around like that because you think there's a chance that he'll catch you on the transition or on your way out. And to circle back to the boxing thing you were saying, I do think you're right. Charles Olivera does not hit as hard as Dustin Poirier, Justin Gaethje, Michael Chandler. He doesn't hit as hard as them. He has good striking. His head movement when it comes to the ones and twos in the boxing is a little bit lacking.
Predictable almost.
Yeah. Compared to everything else that he's got, which is buttoned up to a T, his head movement for the boxing can be a little bit lazy at times. And that's where Dustin was finding success. And that's why I feel like if Dustin would have been able to keep it at boxing range and stay off of the cage, stay off of the ground, and continue to brawl with him, he would have gotten a finish. He would have got a knockout finish because Charles was getting hit, and I think there was a serious difference in the power between those two as far as the punching goes. And if you can get inside close enough, you're not going to be able to get kicked as hard because, obviously the legs are much longer than the arms. And if you don't have the right kicking distance, then you're not going to land things flush. You might have to switch to knees, which can become a little bit more difficult to land when you're getting punched in the face. So I think Dustin knows what mistakes he made. His team knows what mistakes he made. And if he could go back, he'd probably fix them. And you'd probably see a new champion if he did correct those couple of mistakes. But this is a game of inches. Charles Olivera was able to figure out the problems that, Poirier was presenting him and then, get on top of whatever it was that he thought he had the best chance of doing. I was really impressed with it. It was everything you wanted, and not just in a title fight, but in an entire UFC card. The whole thing had its shocking moments, it had its upsets, it had its epic title fight that we thought was going to be great and turned out to be even better than we had expected. So I was really, really impressed. These two guys are class acts. They really handle themselves after in victory and in defeat with class. I'm really happy for him. Oliveira's a beast. I think that if anybody can get a third crack at a 55 title, it's Dustin Poirier, and he only knows one way to the top, and it's the toughest way possible.
That's for sure. He's going to grind it out. And, just a little nugget to look forward to, if Justin Gaethje does have a weak part in his game, it is being submitted. Yeah. And we know if your weak part in your game is you get submitted sometimes, it's kind of tough to be paired up against the guy with more submissions than anybody in the history of the sport. So we should do a separate video breaking down the future matchup because it looks like we are going to get Gaethje versus Olivera, and that's worthy of a breakdown in and of itself. But the night belonged to Charles Olivera last night. All the credit in the world to Dustin Poirier. Wonderful person. He's going to donate $20,000 to Olivera's charity in Brazil. This was a feel-good fight. And, I feel bad for Dustin, but the guy made several $1 million this year, and he knocked out the biggest draw the sport's ever seen. He beat him twice. So all in all, I think Dustin can go into the holiday season with his head held high, because 2021, even though he didn't finish it off with a win, was certainly still the year of the Diamond.
Absolutely. One of the most epic years for one of the most epic fighters we've ever seen.
For sure. Guys, thanks so much for watching this video. If you haven't already, smash that like button and drop us a comment, because we always love chatting with you guys in the comments. And if you haven't subscribed to the channel already and you love everything mixed martial arts and combat sports related, that's always appreciated as well. Have a wonderful day, and we'll see you in the next one.
Peace.